Shalom, my friends, and welcome to Dwarven Destruction in Dwarf Fortress. Now, what is Dwarf Fortress, I hear you asking, and that is actually a very good question, because you see, Dwarf Fortress is one mix SimCity and one mix Sims, if you replace Sims with psychotic, angry, drunken midgets. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to actually create a world right here by just hitting the enter button, and a lot of these things are rather self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go over all of them. We have this little build telling you that things can and will happen as they tend to do, so I'm just going to ignore that. And now, what we are going to do is we are going to pick a small world, that way it's big enough to have a lot of civilizations that we will be able to interact with as the world goes on, plus any larger than medium, and it tends to hang up and crash and take forever to actually generate, so we don't want to actually sit around and let that happen. So we are just going to choose a small world, history. We are going to move that again to a short period of time, because in previous versions, if you chose anything medium or above, there was a very good chance that the other civilizations, such as elves, dwarves, goblins, kobolds, would actually die out due to starvation or megabeasts or war, and we want to actually have a chance to experience their culture, so we will set this to a short amount. Number of civilizations, again, is actually how many towns, castles, and elf retreats, as they're called, are in the world. While this is more important in adventure mode, which we are not worried about, we are going to select medium, so there's a fair amount of them. Number of sites, again, this actually only affects adventure mode, so we are going to ignore this completely and just skip on down to the number of beasts. Now this isn't referring to just normal everyday monsters, it's actually referring to megabeasts. Megabeasts include bronze colossi, dragons, titans, ettins, and the higher it is, obviously the more of them there will be, and they tend to destroy civilizations before they can actually have a chance to get off the ground, so we will leave this to a medium. Next, savagery. This is referring to biomes. Biomes are places in the world that you start in. They range from good, neutral, evil, as well as benign, neutral again, and savage. Savage has angry animals in there, like lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, who like to maul and eat your dwarves' skulls. We do not want this to happen, but we want to have them at least exist so we have the chance of meeting them, so we'll leave this to a medium. Finally, we have mineral occurrence. This is actually very important. In previous Dwarf Fortress versions, anything, even sparse, would leave you with enough minerals to supply your dwarves with enough iron and steel and other metals to not only have a very strong trade empire, but also equip your dwarves to make them near impervious in combat. But in the current version, they are exceedingly rare. Now if we put it up to everywhere, right here, that would put enough minerals, actually, in the world for us to do something similar, but we want a slight bit of a challenge, so we will turn it over here to a frequent. Now, all we have to do is hit Y to go, and it will start to generate. Now, since this can unfortunately take a little bit of time, it's actually going a lot quicker than I imagined, I'm going to cut here, and when we are back, we will be on the menu screen, and we will actually begin to embark. So, with the magic of video editing and this mouse, we will cut here and return. And we're back, and as you can see here, the world has actually been created. We are going to just select Start Playing, and these are the different modes for gameplay that we have. We have Legends mode, which lets you go through the history of the world, see what historical figures have appeared, see what monsters are running amok, see what civilizations have been destroyed. We're not very interested in this. Above that, Adventure mode, you actually create an adventurer. It doesn't have to be a dwarf, it can be an elf or a human. And you explore the world as you would as a single person, where you go around, take quests, and stab things in the face. We're not that interested in this one either. And this is the meat of it, Dwarf Fortress mode, where we will create our civilization and get started. We will hit Enter to begin, and we are now in the Embark screen. Here we go. Now, as you can see here, we have the local map, the region map, and the world map. And those are all fairly self-explanatory, but the way I am going to embark is, I always like to embark in a place that has a stream, has mountains, and has enough woodlands to sustain a wood industry, as dwarves actually have a lot of use for wood. And this actually looks like a very good place. I see there's a fair bit of mountain, which are these little gray squares, good amount of woodland, which is the green, and a stream, which is an endless source of food and water, very, very useful. And since it looks like we are not in a savage area, it looks like it should be a fairly easy going, so let's hit E to embark, and now you can either select Play Now or Prepare. If you select Play Now, you will get a specific set of dwarves with specific sets of equipment that actually aren't very well matched up, and so I always recommend select Prepare for the Journey carefully. If you don't, well, it's not any more doomed to failure than playing now, but it will give you a better chance. So this is the screen. We will select the dwarves. These are the dwarves that we have to work with. And first of all, we actually want to go into the item screen by hitting Tab. Here in the item screen, these are currently what we have available to us. What we are going to do is actually remove this anvil. Now, the reason we're doing this is you see here at the bottom where it says points. Those are used for equipment and, most importantly, training your dwarves. That is what we really, really need to do. So what we're going to do is you always want to have 2 miners, like so. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Because you will need to get your dwarves underground, or at least out of the wilderness, as soon as possible, and you want them to be able to dig at a good clip. So with 2 competent miners, that is a good thing. Next, you will want a woodcutter. Not only will he be able to use the axe that you started with, but also being able to cut wood will allow you to get beds made for your dwarves so they don't have to sit on the floor and sleep, which makes them very unhappy. You do not want unhappy dwarves. Finally, or next, it will be someone who can make use of both the stone that we will be mining and the wood that we will be cutting. So we are going to turn this guy into someone who can make both wood and stone materials. Again, next, beyond him, we want someone who can give us food. We will always want a nice replenishing food source. Since we have a stream, we will need a fisher dwarf. This is what this guy is going to become. And next, we will need someone to actually make food out of these or actually prepare the fish, because otherwise what the fisher dwarf will do is he will fish, he will leave the fish on the ground, it will rot, you've just wasted a fish, good job. And so we will need a fish cleaner to make use of what he was going to make. And finally, we need someone who can actually prepare food and booze. This is what this last person is going to do. He will be our cook, he will be our brewer, and just to give him something to do, he will also be an herbalist. That way he can pick the shrubs to get berries and seeds for farming, as well as being able to prepare them for booze. And looks like our dwarves are now actually prepared. Let's just go over once over. We have 97 points to spare. What I typically will do here is this way, if we ever get started farming, I have plenty of seeds to go around. This is pretty much all whatever you want to do. This is just what I personally feel like doing. You can do whatever you wish if you decide to get started. This way I'm giving myself lots and lots of points to actually prepare food for, so I can live off of it for a long, long time before I actually need to farm. And I am now out of points. You always want to make sure you use every point available to you. And now we will hit E to embark. It is now going to load us into the world. It'll actually take a couple of seconds usually. It should be prepared in just a moment, and here we go. So now, we have arrived, the journey begins, and we are named Boat Canyon, because hey, why not? And now we shall strike the earth. So thank you for tuning in. This is the first episode. We shall continue to see what our intrepid dwarves decide to do here. So thank you for tuning in. Shalom, and until next time.